We can give it a shot.
We can give it a shot, indeed, my
Fuck
friend.
it.
Let's fucking go,
Yeah.
baby!
Yeah.
Ow, my ear.
Okay, I think I'm a boomer. I think I'm a zoomer. I think I'm a doomer. Damn, I'm
My
a
headphones
zoomer.
are so fucked up. I just hear a
Okay.
bunch of static whenever
E
the
double G
beat hits.
W H I T E.
If only I had Gumroad money to buy those. Welcome to the Grillcast, the only podcast in the whole entire world dedicated to radical centrism. I am your host, Orion. Joining me as always is Micah. What is up, buddy?
Wow, Orion. It is what an eventful couple weeks it has been here in the radical centrist movement.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Micah, because, I'm gazing into the soulless dead eyes of our Grilla-funded Funko Pops right now, and I'm sure you know how I feel, right? Do you know how I feel right now?
I wish I knew.
Those?
I wish I knew how you felt right now. I can't wait until mine arrive at my very doorstep so I can stand there with my mouth agape, pointing at my brand new figurines, paid for
Official.
by our fans. Official Grillcast. Yeah.
Yeah, paid for by the fans. And I'll tell you, Micah, when you look at those, you're going to feel a sense of accomplishment. You're going to feel a sense of inner completeness. You're going to feel that moment of zen that we all try and find every day in our lives. Look, to have earned plasticized immortality through our hard work, through the Gorilla's war chest, it lets me know that we're not doing anything wrong, that there's no need to course correct the ship, nothing like that. Our highest desires and dreams actualized through other people's hard-earned money.
And think of all the other utilities. They're not just there to be inspirational pieces of art. They have practical applications. Like you can show them off to your friends. You can put them into a jar.
You put them into a jar. Sometimes I take them actually, and I make them fight each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Like we're superhero action figures. I'm just like boom, boom. I'm not gay. Boom.
Use
no,
Marcy
I'm
as
not
a weapon.
But when I got these Funko Pops, when I saw them and I realized how it made me feel, it shifted my mind on politics as a whole. It actually changed me as a person.
Yeah, go into that a little bit. That's interesting.
Sure. So the Grillcast Funko project, when we first launched the Gumroad, that's not what we intended to do. That wasn't our idea for it. We really had the notion that we were going to change the world. We had dreams of revolutionizing our content, making a new world, a better world through our activism, through our speech, through the ideas that we put out there into the ether. But, that's the thing that as the year went by, I had this sense of naive optimism, and that waned. It was replaced with a vacuous feeling of dread because I realized, the realization had dawned on me that we could never change our corrupt system, no matter how many hundreds of dollars we raised.
Yeah,
that was a grill pill that hit me as hard as it could.
The wing cut coffers are essentially endless, and there's really no way that our humble movement could ever match what they're capable of.
I know, that's the problem, right? I look back on that young, bright-eyed child of last year, and I feel this sense of bemusement, I feel envy, having been like that and what I am now. I never imagined that we would sell out like this, you and me.
Yeah, no, it's the loss of innocence of this channel, really, is what it is.
It is, and to relate it to what I was saying, the reason I say this is because now I know exactly what it's like going into the political system. Like, Micah, how many men and ugly women have entered the political ring, hoping to affect actual change, hoping to make the world a better place? And what do they find? They find that there's a reason that every single politician has sold the laymen of our country down the river.
I mean, there's got to be at least a handful.
A handful of what?
People like that.
It's every single politician. They go in with these big dreams and big ideas, and they figure out that they too will fall trap to the dehumanization that the machine forces you into, that it instills into you. Maybe they're just sweeping up for satanic pedophile cabals, and maybe we're just buying too expensive pieces of plastic, but it's symptomatic, both of us, me and these politicians, of the same folly of man, and that's wanting to do better, realizing that it sounds gay and kind of like a hassle, too much work, and deciding, you know what, I'm just gonna leech off the people who believe in me for my own selfish gain. I'm just like the politicians. Wow, that's literally me.
Yeah, it's almost like we become buck-broken by our own drive and like desire to achieve.
Right. That's exactly what happens.
And then you finish doing whatever work you were, working on, whatever project you were dealing with, and then you sit down on the couch and you're like, oh, this is comfy. This is nice. I would much rather be doing this.
Yeah, this sounds a lot better right now, actually. Can whip out my Steam Deck, play some Balatro, or I could work hard to spread the message, but you get demoralized out of that. And you sell out for the grift instead. And it happens to every single person in a position of power, such as me and the top politicians of the country.
Right, you and the top politicians.
And, I have to ask you, too, because we were talking a bit before the show, and we were kind of incensed that we had received so much support for getting these Funko Pops. People saying, wow, this was a hilarious video. Wow, you looked really handsome in this video, Ryan, and not fat at all. People saying things like that. Not a single person was angry at us for having wasted their hard-earned money, and that's what happens to these politicians, too. They go in there, they say they're going to do one thing, do something completely differently, and still receive those votes of confidence to have a long-lasting career fucking people over.
Yeah, it really says a lot about our audience.
It says that, they're good on the joke, that they understand that, sometimes you have to be the April Fool. It's respectable because most communities full of online autists don't have that same sense of humor.
Well, you know what? I think we did, to our credit, and this may play into why it was appreciated by our based and intelligent viewers, is that, us doing a bit of a goof with the Funko Pops is a little more involved and interesting than what most YouTubers do as April Fool's joke, which is just like, I said something that's untrue. Woo! That's
Dude,
literally...
The internet is unusable on April Fool's Day, frankly. You go on there, I pull up my Twitter, and the first tweet I see is Elon Musk being like, Google just hired me to be the head of their DEI department. Whoa!
And it's like, yeah. And and the thing is, like, we can't do that. We can't do that because that's what we do every week or every other week. We go out there and we say things, and some of those things are, true, and most of it's true.
All of it.
Yeah, all of it's true.
No, I get what you're getting at, though.
We can't get away with that. That's not deserving of our fans' attention or interest. That's
right. I think it's fair to say that we had the best April Fool's prank of anybody online
ever, probably,
or even offline.
Yeah,
probably ever. So thank you to those Gumroad Grillisha members. We actually got one more person signed up afterwards. I know. I couldn't believe it. No one canceled. One person signs up. Total Grillcast victory, folks.
Total Grillcast victory.
And, to shift subjects a little bit, us hardworking politicians and podcasters, we're not the only ones who've had our souls chewed up and spit out by the system. I want to talk about Dan Schneider.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
So Dan Schneider, if you don't know, you should know. Recently, a documentary has come out regarding Dan Schneider and the kids who got diddled on his television productions.
Allegedly.
Actually, not allegedly. There is some proof there. He was a head honcho at Nickelodeon. He's a head honcho at Nickelodeon, right? He's the big guy making all the hit shows when I was growing up.
No pun intended. Yeah.
The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, iCarly. Well, if you're me and Micah's age, you've seen these shows.
Everything.
Everything that he made. It was eternal. It was ubiquitous. And what's crazy about this Dan Schneider guy is that 4chan's been calling him a pedophile for at least a decade. Like, I remember being a young buck going on the Chan boards, gleefully shitposting in threads. And in these threads, he's pictured with underage child stars. Everyone's calling him Coke-Can Dan. Dan Holder Tighter, she's a fighter Schneider. Dan the Hyman Divider Schneider. We're all having a good time making fun of this fat pedo. And we all wondered, how the hell does he keep getting away with it? How does this happen? He just got off scot-free, never called out. And to my surprise, a decade after doing the ship hosting, I see a documentary recently produced where he's the subject.
To the question of how did he get away with this, or how is this happening? I think Vosh might be able to provide some answers to those questions.
Well, there's a difference between them in that, Vosh obviously.
Dan Schneider actually got underage poon.
You would think so. I'm going to blow your mind. I have literally 10 clips here because I was so incensed watching this documentary where they completely fumble the fucking ball 100%. I thought that we had finally reached a point where our society would seek justice for the many crimes that, were pointed towards him. But, I watched this piece of shit docu-series, right? And I'm firmly now in the camp of Dan Defense Force. I'm part of the DDF now because I actually think that he did nothing wrong.
Well, that's a pretty substantial claim you're making.
I have so much evidence to prove my point here that it's actually crazy. Everything that you thought you knew about Dan Schneider is about to be turned on its head completely. You're about to do a 360 and walk away because this docuseries is a complete and total turd. So I'm going to start with a clip from the first episode that proves my point. It's part of the tapestry that I'm trying to weave here, part of the narrative that I'm trying to establish to prove once and for all that Dan Schneider is an innocent man.
It was early on when we first started that Dan said he didn't think women were funny.
He said women can't write funny. He challenged us to name a funny female writer. And he said this to the writers in the writer's room. And that was my first indication of trouble, that maybe this guy didn't really value women in the writer's room.
So I watched this entire first episode. I had my popcorn ready.
Dude.
I'm stoked, yearning to see this brilliant expose that vindicated what I'd learned from 4chan. And this is what I get, Micah. My gorillas. This is supposed to be a documentary on children being sexually exploited, and the entirety of the first episode was a bunch of fat women complaining about sexism.
Yeah, no, that's honestly like a incredibly Chad move to like hire female staff just to like talk to them about how they can't write.
Well, he's probably forced to hire them. Oh, we need a couple of them. He's like, God damn it. Fine. He comes in,
true.
mogs them, alphas them. And you know what? I feel like he had a point there because in that clip, were either of those women being funny?
I assume neither of them named themselves.
No. Did they call out a funny female writer at any point?
Yeah, she didn't go, well, I quickly retorted him that blah, blah, blah is a funny female. Like, no, she didn't have an answer. You're right.
No, there was no answer for it. There's no answer for it. Neither of those women are funny. The woman with that looks like she's about to ruin a grocery store worker's day with complaints. Or the fat woman who looks like she's going to buy out the entire grocery store of all their junk food. Neither of them had anything of value to say. And that was the entire first episode, was various women complaining that Dan Schneider is a sexist. Now, in this documentary that's supposed to be about child exploitation, doesn't that kind of seem like small potatoes?
It is. It's definitely an odd thing to open on. It's definitely an odd thing. Like, again, this might be their version of weaving a tapestry, but like it's something that I think most people wouldn't really care about.
No,
I think they're sitting there like hoping like, oh, people are going to hear this and be like, oh, that's hot. I can't believe he said that. But like, I don't think anybody's going to react that way. I don't think.
And that's the thing. So if somebody does something and they get called out for that thing, that's fine. But if you take 100 different avenues of attack to try and take someone down, it's not just that he's a child predator. He's also a sexist and a racist, like, and he did this and that. Yeah. It's like, you got to stick on point here. You got to figure out.
Yeah, and that, and you're pushing away part of your audience. You're pushing away all the sexists and everything else, like those other people.
Right. It's really cutting down what should be a very important feature.
Well, I was gonna watch this film about this terrible, child abuser. But then they started talking about how bad it is to beat women, and I just couldn't.
I just tuned out.
They lost me. It's part of my culture. That's part of my identity.
Right. And that's the entire first episode. I didn't pull more clips of that because this is a film or a series about children being hurt by Dan Schneider. That's the bread and butter. That's the product that we're being sold here. So let's see what trauma the children went through, what they have to say about Dan Schneider and their time on set. I do warn you, this is, a big revelation. If you have a queasy stomach, I would recommend not continuing on to this clip. So let's check it out.
So one week we get a script. There's a new character for me on all that named Noseboy. Naturally, I'm in a superhero costume, which is just tights and underwear. What was different about this, they gave me a prosthetic nose, like an enlarged nose. And they put this same nose on the costume.
I'm Captain Victor! What are your special powers?
You can't help but notice that it looks like penis and testicles on my shoulders.
Ah! The horror! My God, the horror! He had to put on a fake nose. It was on his costume. It looked like... Does that look like a wiener to you, Micah? Is that what that came across to you as?
I mean, if I was gay, it might.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's a Rorschach test. Like, I'm like, oh, yeah, I see, some noses on there, your Captain Nose. And then this obvious homosexual is like, oh, that's BBC. He put BBC on my costume.
It is. I will give him that it is a strange color palette. I will give him that it is an interesting color palette.
My color palette was cringe. I didn't look fabulous at all. Look, this kid, you might think, that builds up to him saying that he was diddled. But he never says that. He never actually says, yeah, I was diddled, which is the entire fucking point of the documentary. But maybe there's more to the story, Maybe it doesn't end there. Because you're right, they could be weaving their own tapestry, trying to build up to the kill shot. We've established now that Dan is a horrible sexist and a BBC lover. But did you know that he's also a racist, Micah? A horrible, ardent racist?
Oh, sorry. I just remembered a joke, which fuck it. Never mind.
Great.
Actually,
input.
no, I'm gonna
Thank
say
you.
it. I'm gonna say it. Talk about having a chip on your shoulder.
Talk about having a dick on your shoulder.
Okay, sorry. That was moving
No,
on.
it was worth it. Thank you. So, yeah, this next clip is going to prove once and for all that Dan Schneider is a horrible racist.
Okay.
But generally, I had a good relationship with Dan. Dan was very professional and nice to me.
Dan had a nicer relationship with some of the other white kids. I didn't feel close to him at all. My time on Nickelodeon played a big part in how I dealt and still deal with racial issues.
We got impressions on what the climate was like immediately. First day filming.
You want to buy some girly cookies? You're not a girl.
They set up the scene like he was selling drugs. And I was like, oh, the black kid gets to be the crack dealer?
So, we have proof now. Dan Schneider, horrible racist and sexist. He hates black children. He sees them as crack dealers. He sees them as thugs. Weirdly, that kid also didn't get molested by Dan Schneider, but he did make him feel bad, which is basically just as bad, right?
Basically, yeah.
Those are basically equivalent crimes, in the documentary maker's opinion. So, he's forced to portray a crack dealer with his Girl Scout cookies, which, by the way, we literally have the Girl Scouts just in front of grocery stores, skirting child labor laws to guilt you into buying their cookies. Isn't that bizarre? Isn't that like child exploitation?
Yeah, it is.
But, he sees that, he sees this scene, he feels bad, and he goes to tell his mama on those horrible Hollywood chuds who forced him into that role.
Well, I find it very ironic because today, I mean, the new age audience would applaud the representation of a Girl Scout being a black male child.
Yeah, that would get an 100% pass today, but I guess
I just get so confused, Orion. I can't keep up.
It's hard to keep up with the times, isn't it?
It is.
Reaching our old age, left is right, right is left. Nothing makes sense. Directionless in the void. It's tough. You would think that would be something to be celebrated. But he tells his mama on those horrible Hollywood chuds. And let's see how she deals with that. What she has to say about the events that transpired.
That was a moment where I felt like, oh, I could go get my mom about this. But also, I know my mom.
Snitch.
And I know that she would have rose hell.
I saw things differently than everybody else. Now, ultimately, I did try to tell his agent, because she called me. She's like, Tracy, come on. Do it for Brian. Just shut up. And I was like, yeah, but things are weird here.
It's bad when even Hollywood cucks, the most cucked people on the planet, the natural prey of the angry fat black woman, when even they pull a Joe Biden and say, can you just shut up, man? When even they are forced into that position. Like, she wasn't being reasonable. She didn't go there, hey, I just have a couple concerns. She was like, I'm gonna speak my mind all the time, that she caused problems on the set, that it was ever going to work because everything was an attack. Everything was viewed through a racial lens. Oh, and her kid, we still haven't gotten
even if she genuinely felt that way, I don't think there is even an inkling of I don't think they had even an inkling of an idea to give up the money that they were going to get from it.
No, they didn't. They, she believed that, but also, the money was good. Single mom raising a kid, as it is. And because she was such a problem, Lil Ray, he didn't get his own spin-off show like some of his other child actor friends there. And he was kicked out after 2 seasons. They really did not take that well. Let's see how they deal with this.
Getting kicked off the show definitely was the stage setter for a lot of issues that I still face today as a black man in therapy. A lot of issues that I'm currently overcoming, but I feel like everything happens for a reason. You know what I mean? Maybe I wasn't supposed to be on set anymore.
I had no idea what I was saving my son from. It's a house of horrors. No kidding. House of horrors.
So here's a life tip for my grillas out there. If someone ever starts a sentence with, as a black man in therapy, you can just go ahead and tune out. Just disregard everything they've ever said. You don't need
Especially
to continue
if they're
the conversation. Well, yeah, that goes for any as a blank in therapy. If you ever hear that, it's like a content warning. It's a big blinking sign saying, hey,
don't
take my opinion seriously ever.
Yeah.
And, this guy, as a black man in therapy, he believes that he's in this therapy, not because his loud, black, obnoxious, overbearing single mom controls his life and makes everything a problem and he has to live with the fallout from that, but because he didn't get his own spin-off show. That sent him in a tailspin. And that was the theme of most of the former child actors who spoke out on this film, is that they didn't get a career out of it.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing essentially is I, the mom, accused production of being racist. My son got kicked off the show and is now in therapy. And this is, justice needs to be served.
Yeah, this is Dan Schneider's fault.
How could Dan Schneider do this to me?
And that's the thing. Dan Schneider really is, he really is the focal point for everybody's frustrations regarding this. Anybody who came out and talked against him, it wasn't the Josh Pecks, the Miranda Cosgroves, the Amanda Bynes, no one like that. It was all people whose careers peaked with Dan Schneider.
Right.
It's a pretty interesting coincidence there.
It is.
But, the fat black mom, she did make a good point in that there was trouble to come on set. I at this point, I'm 2-hour-long episodes into the series. I haven't gotten anything good to sink my teeth into. I just wanted vindication. I wanted proof that the 4chan memes were true. I wanted them to serve that to me on a platter. And I was willing to indulge in the final 2 episodes to see this become a reality. Now, let's get into the real meat and potatoes here. The smoking gun that we were all promised.
The smoking penis.
We have the smoking penis. So we have Drake Bell, star of Drake and Josh. And he actually did end up being molested. Not by Dan Schneider, because he literally didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, but by a dialogue coach on the show named Brian Peck. We're 3 episodes in. We finally have all the racism and sexism accusations out of the way. We're getting to the real shit, the real deal. Now, despite having not actually molested anybody, the documentary says Dan Schneider is at fault for what happened to Drake Bell. That he should have been a fortune teller. That he should have been a soothsayer. That he should have foreseen
he should have molested him
and prevented this. Yeah, they say, well, he should have prevented this. He should have stopped it. He should have been like Marky Mark on 9/11. He should have said, it wouldn't have gone down like that if I was there. This is all Dan Schneider's fault that this happened to Drake Bell. So let's hear what Drake
He wouldn't have told anybody about it if it was me.
He would have kept his fucking mouth shut if it was me. Well, let's hear what Drake Bell's dad has to say about his concerns before his kid ended up getting diddled. Let's see about the lead up to that event.
So I went to production and said, I really am very uncomfortable with this guy, Brian Peck, always being around my son. I go, I don't see anything abnormal, but it just doesn't, I don't have a good feeling. And she goes, oh, well, I don't know if you knew it or not, but he's gay. Maybe you're just homophobic and you just don't understand that he's a touchy-feely guy. So I said, okay. And then it just kept not setting well with me. So I told people on the set, and I was ostracized. And so I backed off.
Okay, so hold up, wait.
Yeah.
Hold on a second here.
Yeah.
So the dad goes to production, and a woman, he said she, told him that the future molestee was gay and therefore immune to criticism. So you're telling me when he told other people on the set who weren't Dan Schneider, because they would have asked, was Dan one of the people? And he would have been like, yes, because it's a hit piece on him. So clearly Dan didn't do this. When he told these other people, they all gave him the cold shoulder and pushed him out. I see that scene and it makes me think, wow, it's almost like this might be a systemic problem across the whole industry and not something you can just pin on one fat guy.
Nah.
No, I'm being a turd in the punch bowl here. All right,
you are.
It's just this one guy. Okay, we don't need to make a documentary.
Who happens to be gay? I'm not gay, but he happens to be gay, and he doesn't. And he obviously doesn't speak for all gays. He doesn't act for all. He doesn't molest for all gay.
Right. And you can kind of tell, to be fair to them, that this guy, Drake's dad, was definitely a homophobe.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair.
You can look at the guy and tell that he smeared some queers back in the 70s. But, that is kind of proof that bigotry isn't always wrong, because he was the only one who saw it, apparently.
I'm sure. I'm sure someone else was aware.
Well, we'll get into that later, because there are plenty of people who do end up being aware. Is one of them Dan Schneider? Question mark? We'll see in the future. Stay tuned, my Grillas, because it's at this point, his ex-wife, Drake's mother, calls him a turd in the punch bowl, says you're fucking everything up. She demands that he stops interfering with Drake's career in this way, saying, I don't want my kid to get molested. That is a great evil that needs to be stopped, according to, his ex-wife. So the father, he turns over his gun and badge, stops managing Drake's career, but before leaving, he makes one simple request to her. Just one ask. Getting out of the picture, bouncing out, but one little thing.
So I turned her over, the bank account. I turned her over all kinds of paperwork that she needed to be able to handle Drake's career. But I did say to her, and I said this to her in person, I said, but you never, ever leave Drake alone with Brian Peck, and you never let him be around him unsupervised, period, whatsoever.
Pretty simple, easy to understand request. You know, hey, I have good reasons to believe this guy's a fucking creep. I've seen him be weird around our child. Don't leave him alone with this weird faggot. There's just that one little thing. Could you not do that? You know, just make sure that our son remains safe.
Well, you know, and it's again, it's one of those the boy who cried wolf situations. She probably, and that's probably why she divorced him. To be honest, is just because of his ranting and raving about the homosexuals, and she probably just figured, oh, there he goes again.
Dude, that'd be so funny. If every day he comes home, he's like drunk. He's like, I saw another faggot today. I'm sick of these queers.
Drake, you better not go around them.
Not Adam and Steve.
Drake, you better not be going down Colfax, okay? I know what goes on down there.
No, I don't think that it quite went down like that, unfortunately. So do you think the mother abided that simple request?
Apparently no.
What happens next? Well, it won't shock you, but anybody who had any faith in this woman will be shocked.
Life. My mom didn't want to drive to LA. She didn't like driving. So Brian would come and pick me up for auditions. I would end up staying the night because, well, I lived in Orange County and I would have auditions, and then it would be, you know, easier to drive me home the next day instead of driving me home and getting me home at midnight or whatever excuse, you know, he came up with. And that's the way it happened for quite a while.
So, she leaves him with a guy who she's literally been warned is a fucking weirdo. And her reason for it is, I don't like driving. You know, hey, 14-year-old son of mine, just sleep in an adult gay man's house because, you know, if I have to drive you to and from your auditions, that would really interfere with my Klonopin and wine night.
No, just not even a gay man. A person that your father warned me might try to rape you.
But no, this is Dan Schneider's fault that this happened to him.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is Dan Schneider's fault that his mom...
There's no female culpability to be found here.
No, none at all. It's Dan Schneider's fault. He should have known. He should have stopped this. Okay? You know, you actually start to forget that this is a Dan Schneider documentary because here we are, 3 episodes in, and he's accused of everything except being a diddler. That's what we were sold on. We were sold on a bill of lies. He's a diddler.
Yeah.
And this is the result of it. And you think, you know, we're at the end of episode 3. They're saving up their kill shot.
There's going to be something nuclear at the end here, obviously.
There will be something nuclear, you know? They wouldn't just make a documentary like this to cover their own asses and put it all on one guy. You know, maybe he knew, he turned a blind eye. Maybe he was even complicit and he'd wear a Brian Peck mask, tag in, and then take a turn, you know? Who knows?
Drake was none the wiser.
It's like that scene in Revenge of the Nerds, none the wiser. And so, end of episode 3, surely he did something wrong. And it's, you know, at this point, gay child diddler Brian Peck, he ends up being arrested for being a gay child diddler. And here's Dan's obviously guilty reaction to this. I mean, this is beyond the pale.
After Brian was arrested, Dan called and asked me, does this have anything to do with you? Well, I was close enough with Dan that I was like, yeah, man, like this is what he's been doing. And Dan just goes, you don't need to talk anymore about it. That's all I needed to hear. Are you okay? You know, do you need anything from me? Is there anything that you need?
Arrest him! Arrest him! Kill him!
I mean, yeah, he's clearly trying to take advantage of Drake in his time of emotional need.
Yeah, that's what we're supposed to get out of this, right, Mike? Like, well, he offered anything to Drake. He must have meant sexual favors.
Yeah.
When he said, "Wow, you know, that's really awful. You don't have to talk about it." I'm so sorry
you lost your boyfriend. You know, I'm available if you're interested.
If you need anything.
Yeah. Cue the ominous music.
It seems to me to be as normal of a reaction that you could have to something like that happening. Just being like, that's really fucked up. If I can help you in any way. But no, he's evil. He offered consolation to a victim of child rape. He's a piece of shit, obviously. Yeah. And this is the end of episode 3. I'm really close to tapping out, but I knew I had to keep going further. I didn't want to be like that guy digging into the tunnel.
Almost get to the diamonds, yeah.
Yeah, almost gets to the diamonds. So close. I think to myself, all right, I'll keep going with this. And you know what? They're saving it for the 4th episode. When you're taking a swing at the king, you best be sure that you don't miss. They're just waiting to put the nails in the coffin here. Yeah, I mean, this last episode, it couldn't also be a vindication of Dan's character. It couldn't also show that he's a man being swarmed by a coalition of unfunny fat female writers and black men in therapy, right?
Well, no.
That couldn't be the case.
It couldn't be, unless.
Well, let's hit this last clip.
And the judge sentences him to 16 months in jail and ordered him to register as a sex offender.
Bruh.
But we wanted to understand who in Hollywood was supporting Brian through this. So we petitioned the court to unseal the letters of support in this case.
Oh, we got Dan Schneider now.
Letters of support are meant to influence the judge during the sentencing. In this case, most of them are asking the judge just to give Brian probation. These 41 letters have been kept under seal for 2 decades. Some are from family, some are from friends. Dan Schneider does not write a letter. Top executives at Nickelodeon do not write letters.
Oh, okay, so Dan didn't write a letter on his behalf. Whoa, you don't say.
Interesting, yeah. That is very interesting.
And this is the clip from the last episode. That's where it really brought it together for me. You have over 40 people, all working in Hollywood, all his colleagues, people that work with him, that are his friends, in his inner circle, writing character statements for Brian Peck. They felt that regardless of his rape of a child, that he was a king who deserved compassion and leniency. It's almost like, and bear with me here, Micah, because this is going to blow your mind, it's almost like children being abused by satanic Hollywood pedophiles is an intrinsic state of the industry.
Yeah, almost.
Yeah. It's almost like that. Look, my point is this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead? Okay.
No, you go ahead first.
My point is this, that Dan Schneider is the modern day Jesus, okay?
Wow, okay. Well, I didn't see that coming.
No, seriously, listen to my rationale here, because it's a good one. He's been put up on the cross, a big sturdy cross, because he's a big sturdy boy, and he's dying for the sins of the entire childhood acting industry. He's being killed for the sins of fat white women not being funny. He's being killed for the sins of single moms letting their kids be raped by predacious men. He's being killed for the sins of child actors who weren't good enough to get their own spinoff. He's been hoisted on this cross, and he's been derided as the embodiment of origination of these great sins. Like,
yeah, his whole character's being dragged through the mud, and I kind of assumed that, I didn't see any of this. Obviously, you were focusing on the more important bits of information from this documentary, but I also saw clips beforehand about his foot fetish thing and all the the things involving feet, and it's like, okay, what about Tarantino? What about Quentin Tarantino? Does his foot fetish mean that he's a creepy sex weirdo pervert? Yes, probably. But society's not trying to throw him under the bus for it.
Well, because Dan Schneider was all tapped out of making good shows. They no longer had a use for him. Quentin Tarantino is still a king in the industry.
He has one more movie, and then after that one more movie, we'll get the
pitchforks out. We'll put him on the cross. And look, it's not that I don't think that Dan Schneider is a weirdo, but the Hollywood pedophile cabal, they point at him and they say, look, we got him. We got the one guy who was guilty of all this shit. The one guy. Well, and then you have 40 plus people writing character references for a faggot pedophile, and they get to continue their careers without recourse or consequence. They get to continue unimpeded. The woman who told Drake Bell's dad that he was just a homophobe and to let it go, she gets to continue her career without recourse or consequence. The actual convicted pedophile, he actually continued his career when he got out of prison for 15 years.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask because I had heard that. That's Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he worked on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, bro.
Oh my God.
They're like, in the documentary, they're like, oh, we found that out and then we kicked him out as soon as we figured it out. But he still had steady work.
What do you mean you found that out? What
yeah, he's a registered sex offender. It's like, what? So you're telling me if I go and apply to McDonald's, I'm going to get a background check, but you're not doing background checks on people you're having on your shows with children? Or even a Google search. You Google search the guy's name. Oh, this guy was convicted of molesting a kid. You're telling me that never happened. But no, it's Dan Schneider. It's all Dan Schneider. It was his fault. Kill him. And, the
know what this sounds like to me?
Huh?
It sounds like fat phobia is what it is.
They
know that he's an easy target because he's a big target, and so that's why they put him out there.
They did the same thing to Weinstein, right?
Yeah,
like a guy who definitely, just a fat guy.
Did some he didn't even really. I mean, I don't know if this is a hot take or not, but like soliciting prostitution, I don't really think everybody thinks that should be a crime, and that's really all he did. That's really all he did. If we're being honest here, if we're being completely 100%.
Yeah, the best paid prostitutes in the entire world. Hey, you can get this movie with a $10 million fucking check behind it. All you have to do is suck my weird egg wiener.
I know you're genuinely uninteresting in every sense of your being. But if you suckle on my wiener, like I'll get you a multi-million-dollar acting gig.
Right. And, that's the thing, though. Dan Schneider doesn't even reach that level or even close. The worst thing they got him on was that, oh, yeah, you did, like, some weird feet stuff, like, which is gross, which is weird. But you have the documentary makers here. They pat themselves on the back. They get to congratulate themselves. They have a critically acclaimed expose. They got it. They got the one guy who was responsible for all the wrongs in the world. They got the one guy who was responsible for all child exploitation in Hollywood. They got him. They get to feel good about that. They get to be praised for that because they're running cover for everybody else who's doing the exact same thing right now in real time, but worse.
Yeah, no, it happens every single time. It's like unironically, it's baffling, like how they get away with it. Like just like every single time one of these instances of some famous producer or influence, Weinstein, Epstein, Schneider. I'm kind of noticing a pattern there. But anyways, but just every time one of these big people go down, everybody that's ever known them and been around them, just like they can't believe it. I can't believe it.
It was such a surprise.
Gosh, you're telling me that they did what now?
And that's the thing.
If only I could have done something about this.
This is why I'm really incensed about this film. This is what really pisses me off is they literally lifted 4chan memes. They turned that dream into reality. And they completely shit the bed with it. They didn't get any victims speaking out against him. There's no Epstein flight logs that he was on. There's no evidence he ever turned a blind eye or enabled it. That he ever said, oh yeah, I knew about it, but I just looked the other way. No one ever accused him of that. But he did say that women aren't funny.
His only crime was loving feet too much.
To be fair, though, I do think that foot fags should probably be put in a camp. I don't like that that's being enabled as something that like, oh yeah, actually that's normal too. Like we're just a normal guy. Actually, it's like cool and like fun.
Well,
and,
where do you? Well, okay, I don't know, like where do you draw the line? Because I see that as the same as like basically any. I think that pretty much any type of fetish is something that is kind of like subconsciously gained through external sources, if that makes sense.
Well, now you're getting all philosophical about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just want to know what you think about that.
That it's gained through external sources. So, like, I don't know. How does that come about? I think it's a choice.
Yeah.
Like being gay, it's a choice.
Yeah. But I think I think it is something that people learn or are kind of like shown or like you're somehow like, I think like furries. I think that's like the same, that same proclivity is the same, like the way that you end up being a furry, the same like brain activity, chemical reactions or whatever you want to call it. The same process.
Well, you watch Disney's Robin Hood as a kid and then they're all like animals, or you watch Zootopia. They get groomed into it.
Exactly. It's grooming.
It's grooming and it's sick. That might not be genetic, but what is genetic is being black. being a black person. That's your
true.
genetics. And I think you have a segment
Harsh
of Ride
reality.
to take us on.
Well, I was just gonna say that's a harsh reality that you pointed out for Rachel Dolezal. But
show me the birth certificate. I don't believe she's white.
So here's our little Grillcast review of the news this week. Philadelphia, which is a shithole, has come out with a new law recently banning ski masks in public. The lawmakers are trying to pass this off as a public safety issue, because you always see in cartoons and in fiction, people wear these masks to commit crimes, right? But we know that this is not really what this is about. The black people in Philadelphia are being unfairly targeted by this law because if you didn't know this, I will inform you now, okay, that melanated people do not handle the harsh, cold, windy breezes as well as Caucasians and others do. So, when you have Republicans acting like there's no systemic racism, you can point to this as Exhibit A and prove them wrong. And you know what? On an unrelated note, Philadelphia sounds a lot like the word pedophilia, doesn't it, Orion?
You have a very good point there, Micah. It really does. And these anti-maskers that are targeting these melanated individuals, they're unhinged conspiracy theorists. Oh, if we take away the masks, somehow crime is going to fall. Somehow we'll be able to identify these people committing crimes. But to me, black people all look the same anyway.
Yeah, no, but that besides the point. Have you ever seen these gas station video cameras that move at 1 frame per 5 seconds?
Right. It's not going to make a difference. It's just going to affect, the hardworking black man walking home from work, cold. It's cold out there.
Uncomfortable.
And they're just putting this on to stay warm, to protect themselves from the cold. Look, this is what the thing about anti-maskers. They don't want you to protect yourself from COVID when that was happening. They don't want you to protect yourself from the cold, which is happening now. They just want you to be...
They don't want you to be a luchador.
Right. Is it any sort of face wear that they're going to be banning? Or are they going to say, well, actually, those sunglasses, you could be committing a crime right now. Why don't you take those sunglasses off, boy? Okay? Why don't you take those off? What's next? Now I have to stare directly into the sun and cook my brain out?
They're not banning hijabs, like some people, but they're not doing that,
Right. It's obviously targeted, towards these people. And they need to found a religion where they're allowed to wear ski masks at all times. Where that's part of, their greater meaning for God is to put these on.
And this is obviously going to be challenged in the courts, by the legal system, in all the right channels. This is going to be challenged and I think defeated on the grounds that, we would all agree. Yes, of course, many of these people are going to be extremely uncomfortable, and that's not fair. That's not fair for them to have to deal with the breeze in their face and that the chills, the goose. You don't want to have goose pimples. You had a long, hard day, working at McDonald's, flipping burgers, and you're on your way to rob the liquor store and you got to have those goose pimples all over your body. You're feeling uncomfortable. That's just not fair.
No, it's not. And, it really is part of the colonial mindset that these Republicans have. Take off the mask, boy. Pull up your pants, boy. Get a permit for that pistol you have, boy. Unreasonable requests.
It is unreasonable.
Unreasonable requests that are against our constitutional rights.
It's definitely a diversionary tactic to try to make this about crime, as if it isn't, once again, the right's obsession with control. And, the black community needs more protection now than ever. Because this isn't the only thing you see happening that's an attack on the black community. We've also been long awaiting the Biden administration's ban on menthol cigarettes, which recently came up in the news again because his advisors told him to stall the process because of the potential negative impact from black voters in the polls. So what that's basically saying is we literally wouldn't be able to enjoy menthol cigarettes today if not for black American citizens.
Well, that's a thing that the chuds like to do. Oh, we built this country. Black people, they just live in it. What have they ever done for us? Well, I can go to the store and get a pack of menthol cigarettes to this day, and I can do that because they fought hard for all of us.
Exactly. And I think it's just the resistance to giving any recognition to black people. That is a big problem on the right.
Right. You only give them recognition if they say the exact same things you say. And then, they're a king and they're my friend and I'm going to parade them around and, show everybody that I'm not racist.
There's my African American.
There he is. In that case, it's fine. But when, a hardworking black man wants to pull into the gas station with a ski mask on and ask for all the menthol cigarettes, I'm supposed to assume that he's committing a crime. That's what I am to believe, that he doesn't intend to pay, that he should be arrested, flogged, and killed.
None of us can prescribe any intent based off of the CCTV camera that moves at 1 frame per 5 seconds. Okay, we can't prescribe intent in that interaction. All we see is him go in there and run out of, kind of lean towards the door with a bag full of menthol cigarettes. That doesn't tell you anything.
He's probably running out to his car that his buddy has already started up and waiting ready to go. One, because it's cold, and two, to grab his wallet. But then the cops show up. He's like, oh, I left my wallet at home. Shit, I better come back to pay for this. And what happens? He gets pulled over on the way home for a basic misunderstanding. This is the type of crime, supposed crime, that you see all the time, where innocent men are stuffed into jail cells and told that they're lesser, that they're not even human.
Yeah, and meanwhile, someone like me, I go out into the street and sell Lucy's, and I get a pat on the back from the police. Most cops will stop to suck my dick, and it's just...
the Lucy grind is so fucking funny to me. Make like
it is ridiculous.
50 cents at a time. You're just like standing on a corner all day. I mean, I guess it's better than flying a sign. It's providing a service to the community.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is you buy them in Virginia or wherever it's super cheap, and then you go to like Cali or New York where it's like $25 a pack or whatever. But it is still funny.
Smuggling.
Yeah, but it is still funny. It is a very funny grind.
I was actually, I was buying a shit ton of smokes in Idaho because it's a lot cheaper. I was buying them for going up to the fishing season. And the guy at the shop told me, I can only sell you 10 cartons because anything more would be trafficking it across state lines. You might be trying to resell them. I'm like, dude, I'm white. I'm not going to resell them. I'm going to smoke.
Well, it's also like, what's the return on investment on that? Like, what's like trafficking? Like, where do they draw the line? I mean, can you not traffic and only make? Is it not trafficking if you only profit like $100? They have like a.
He said it was federally illegal because of the tax incentives.
Oh, okay. So if you get pulled over in Idaho and you have 11 cartons in your car, that's a felony?
I think if they have intent that, I'm going to smuggle them across
what are you doing what are you doing with all those cartons of cigarettes, boy?
I didn't get the ins and outs of it. It just really pissed me off.
As it should.
I was ready to go dump tea out at the fucking closest harbor. I was going full 1776. I
tobacco,
was pissed.
you mean? You were going to dump tobacco.
No, because, that shit's expensive. Tea's fine.
That's true.
No one wants tea.
Our rights truly are under attack. I did not know. That pisses me off because obviously I knew about like trying to go over the border to Canada or whatever, where they already have like a menthol ban. I could see that, but literally even in our own country, a free man, black or white, can't even drive across from sea to shining sea, the breadth of this great nation, with as many cartons of cigarettes as they want. That's an injustice that we have to end.
Where my country gone, Micah? Where my country gone?
In the toilet.
A question we'll never get the real answer to. My Grillas. Wow, what a show. What a really great time we've all had here today. Micah, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our Grillisha members?
So you don't want to talk about that guy?
I mean, I guess we could. Sure. All right, so we got one final thing to talk about here. This one really struck me close to home because I couldn't help but notice how much this guy looked like an inverse Micah. Somebody who wasn't Chad, tall and proud, standing in all his glory, but someone who had been broken by the world. Somebody who had been broken by the woman menace. I'll go ahead and play this video. We'll get some thoughts on it, but my God. I mean, this is the epitome of being buck broken.
Who has the best girlfriend ever?
I do.
Who just bought you all this stuff?
Look at those blank, soulless eyes.
and all the stuff.
My girl bought all of it, and I'm about to eat this, and then we're gonna chow on that.
I'm so excited. I haven't had food in days.
Happy Easter.
Yeah. But we're not eating it all. Just know that. Because we gotta save some.
Yeah.
You know?
You have to pay tribute.
Budget cuts, you know? Save. You know? So we're gonna scoff this stuff down.
Man.
Because Boo deserved it. You know? Even though we get in our arguments sometimes, I still love you, okay?
I love you too.
Yeah.
I love you too, baby.
Yeah, you better. I just spent some money on you. Yeah.
The pain in his eyes is palpable. The way that she talks, and you can see in his face, he's like, please make it stop. Please make it stop. She's taking one of her TikToks again. Fuck.
Yeah, he looks like he's on some type of tranquilizer. Like he's tranked up.
I would be too. If this was a life I found myself in, if I wasn't high test and wouldn't immediately get myself out of that situation, if I was lower than dirt like this man, the only way he can cope with his day is by being tranquilized. But yeah, you see this guy, he's just vacant. The soul has left his body.
Seems very unsure about his circumstances.
Right, many people saying, is he being held hostage? It's at that point. You know, the pain in his eyes, it betrays him. People saying...
and depending on what this girl looks like, this might be a good thing.
Right, you know, if it's a real bae, if it's something you'd really like to get your hands on, sure, that could be a possibility. That, however, is not the case. I'm gonna give you a warning here that when she says we can't eat all of this, you know that, right? That wasn't for him, that was for her, because she is, oh buddy, she is something else.
Actually, no, he doesn't. He does not have his hands shackled. He's perfectly fine sitting here eating freaking ice cream.
Oh boy.
So, how about y'all just keep your freaking opinions and your comments to your goddamn selves, because it's actually harmful and very rude that you're sitting here talking crap saying that I'm trying to kill my boyfriend, which is going to be my husband soon.
What are you doing, buddy?
Like, how about you guys live your life and stop worrying about other people's lives and be nice to people and stop accusing them or trying to hurt people, because it's not fair and it's not right.
I know, right? I think she makes a good point.
He's perfectly fine. He's sitting right here. He's talking to me. I'm not gonna harm somebody. Like, I'm not.
Oh boy, buddy.
She looks like Papa
Soon
Meat.
to be husband. Like Papa Meat.
Yeah, Meat Canyon, you know that guy?
Yeah. No, she looks like a grotesque caricature. She doesn't look human. The way that she exerts her control and dominance. I mean, that guy...
You know, more accurately, I should have said she looks like a Meat Canyon cartoon, more precisely.
Right. Like, if that guy tried to leave, all she'd have to do is stand in front of the door. There's nowhere to go. You're not getting past that.
Squirt him with a squirt bottle.
It's the pain in his eyes, in his voice, the way he keeps looking at her. Like, is that going to be the one that makes you finally snap and lay on top of me and kill me? Are you going to smother me to death? Is this going to be the time? You know,
I like how she was just flagrantly lying about not being able to eat all that food.
Yeah. That's one thing. I don't like it when fat people are humble like that and they're like, oh boy.
Oh, I couldn't have another bite. No room for dessert.
Or they go to like a family meal and then they get like a normal sized plate and they're like, yeah, this is how much I always eat. It's like, you're getting McDonald's on the way home. I know you are. I've been there myself. I get it. I understand that. But look, there's one thing about, you know, having a TikTok girlfriend is the deal is she's going to be annoying. She's going to pull out her phone. She's going to record you at inopportune times where you don't want anything to do with it. But she's at least hot. TikTok girlfriend is supposed to be attract. Now he has the worst of both worlds, where he has a disgusting ham planet girlfriend who's also annoying TikTok girl. I mean, that takes it from a 1 to a 0.
I think we can officially say that the any holes a goal line is no longer cute and valid. It's it no longer gets the Grillcast endorsement.
Yeah, we're gonna drop that one from the word bank there, from the phrase bank. We've been proven wrong, and look, we're big enough that we can, be honest about that. Yeah. We can admit when we're wrong. We're can take the high road.
We're schoolers.
And so, that's about all I got. Micah, you got any final words for our grillers today?
No.
Are you sure? I bought you all this food. We can't eat it all, but I bought you all this food. You have something to say, don't you?
Thanks so much, guys. Make sure you click the subscribe button and like and hit that notification bell so you can stay tuned for more. We appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Stay tuned for more, my grillers. And with that, peace out.
I'm old as a boomer. My mind set on Zoomer. Everything cooler long as I'm not Laura Loomer. If you think I'm not number one, I just spell that rumor. Hit that victory royale on some motherfucking coochie. Default dance on a bitch.
Can you please loosen these cuffs?
Default dance on a bitch. Floss dance while I'm flossing in the wind.
You're not a hostage.
Victory royale. You're not a when that chop I hit. Self-incrimination, I have no participation. News keep asking, I don't say shit. You can't have my conversation.
No, seriously. Loosen them up.